Peace, 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 world. Hey, it's your boy JaSun back with another edition of Poems and Passion. We got an awesome show today. We got an amazing poet from out of New York City, JaMaal St. John's. If you follow poetry, I know you know who he is, but if you don't, you're in for a real treat, and we're going to give it to you today. I just want to we're going to chop it up with him. We're going to hear some of his poems, some of his passion, which is a really dope treat for us, man. And I'm really glad to be here. I'm going to open up with a poem of my own just to break the ice, and then we're going to get nice.
That's what's up.
This one is called At the Bus Stop. At the bus stop. Helter skelter. Bus stop shelters are late night homeless shelters, sleeping bags on the benches, and Dave conversates with his dementia at the bus stop. The bus don't even want to stop at the bus stop. Baby's on black hips, Lucy selling Lucy. She got that crack list on her cracked lips. If you want to see how bad crack gets, go downtown, New Haven, at the bus stop. There's an open drug market at the bus stop. I see lawyers on lunch break, Yale professors, cameras everywhere, and usually a few cops, but you could still cop at the bus stop. Where does the buck stop? Berserk. Young girls twerk like they're practicing to go to work. Dope fiends sell Adderalls and perks, but grandma can't even sit down at the bus stop. See, something's wrong. Revolution spins on an axis. Yale don't pay city taxes, but their research studies support drug habits. Alcohol study, $250. Cocaine study, $300. Nicotine study, $400. Depression study, $500. And this is my oppression study because something's wrong. Police chief pastor impregnates a prostitute. Something's wrong. Fourth most violent city. Something's wrong. Bipolar, split personality, dude diagnosed schizo city. Something's wrong. Or maybe, just maybe it's cool to turn a city into a school project of projected statistics. So many of my people are chemically addicted. Nostradamus couldn't predict it. Detectives can't detective until bullets are projected. Bloodstained projectiles written by projectiles. Asthma Street Projects was Yale's project child gone wild. Call it viral. Call it AIDS. Call it for Africans. Call it AIDS. If it was housing for Yale workers, then call it quarters for slaves. See, they projected that if drugs were injected, there would be a green-eyed Dave, and hood rats would chase cheddar in project hallways. Just call it a maze. So I'm sitting at the bus stop like it's the dock of the bay, and my friend that I grew up with act like he can't even hear his name. He just keeps talking to himself, rocking back and forth. And I said, Dave. And he mumbled faster. I said, Dave. And he mumbled faster. I said, Dave, I see you walking around night and day. Dave, I know you're not insane. Dave, remember me? It's JaSun. We used to fix spikes and magic marker our nights to cover the cracks in our shoe polish white. And he said, why are you talking to me, man? I got to get out of here. These are the last years, just like last year. And I said, Dave, you know me, man. And finally he said, yeah, I remember. And I said, I just want to say, I love you, man. And then I walked away because I can't sit by the dock of the bay while my people on the tide just rolling away. Peace. Peace. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. I hope you're with me. I hope you're catching a lesson because poetry is in session and we got none other than my man JaMaal St. John's. People, show him some virtual love, and JaMaal, say what's up to the people.
What's good, family? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing excellent, man. It's good to be kicking the building with you today.
Oh man, yo, it's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to be here, and I really appreciate you and D Moss extending the opportunity, man. This is love. Thank you so much.
Oh man, when we first envisioned this show, I just knew it was a matter of when we were gonna have you on the show, and not if, you know.
Yo, that's love. Thank you.
Hey, man, like seriously, man, like you got a real history in this thing, man.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
ever since I've been around. Like I remember, hearing of you before I met you, and
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty dope, man. To meet you and jump on some of the stages with you,
Mm-hmm.
and man, it's also been a struggle, and it's a beautiful thing that we're still here.
That's true. That's true, man. This coronavirus has been no joke, man. And you know, unfortunately, I think the last actually, what's so funny is the last time I actually was on stage, it was actually in Springfield. Last February at D Moss's Poetry Undressed at Smokey Joe's. It's literally like almost a year to that day.
Well, I think
Um,
I was there.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I was there,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
actually.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, Corona has kind of taken away being able to get on stage and perform the way that we normally would like to. It's kind of hard not having the physical presence of the crowd and you know and being able to see that audience and get that immediate reaction and just to be in a venue with other people because the other part of it is that we haven't had that human contact. We haven't had
Mm,
that ability to share the stage with other poets and have that camaraderie and be able to just kick it with people that you haven't seen in a minute. So this whole pandemic, if it's done anything, it's given me such a more appreciative and grateful perspective on what it is we do. Because I think sometimes when you're in it, for as long as I've been in it for over 26 years. So, being in it as long as I have been, I think one of the things that you do, sometimes you lose focus and, you take it for granted. Um, and what this pandemic has done is, it's humbled me a lot. Not saying that I wasn't humble before, but this hit really, really hard. Especially because, I've lost people during this pandemic. My family's been greatly affected by it. My mom had it. Thank God she recovered from it. So I just feel really blessed to still be here, but also, looking forward to when this pandemic is over, and it will be at some point, to get back out on that stage and do what I love to do, and approach it with a whole new set of eyes and a whole new heart because this really has changed me for the better. I will say that.
yeah, man. I'm sorry for your losses, and also glad to hear that Mom's is doing better now. Correct?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Good,
sir.
good. So I celebrate that with you. Um, Also, you summed up a whole lot, and it was really well said. You actually answered a couple questions that I have for you in the mix of that. So that just shows we're right on track. Um, So with poems of passion, we definitely want to hear some poems from you. And I kind of like to get it set off because there's some people that are our audience that haven't heard you yet,
Mhm.
which is kind of hard to believe in the poetry world, but you know what I mean? But there's some that haven't heard you, so we'd like to give them a little taste of you before we continue on.
Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. So I'll start it off this way. For anybody who's any person of color really who's ever been accused of speaking the English language too well, um, this poem is called "Pardon My French." Disregard everything you've ever heard about the N word. I used to think the worst thing anyone could ever call me was articulate. Because Black folk ain't supposed to speak with diction so immaculate, and they just might think you trying to be white talking like that. Can't be pro-black and pro-noun. Homeboy, I think you need to learn how to smarten up and dumb down. See, this is us. Trying to master language with a slave mentality, confused and forced to choose between bastardized English and standardized anguish. This belief, shaped by old masters' disbelief in our verbal dexterity, and if the greatest enemy of language is insincerity, then I'm so sincere. I'm so sincere with these words because for so long I was told that I couldn't speak the language due to my lips possessing a certain negroid thickness. Now I'm a victim of the Ebonic plague, and there's no known cure for the sickness. Told by black middle class and English class to show some class and talk proper. An English patient who's tired of having his language doctored, standing trial in the court of public opinion, dark-skinned defendant, seen as guilty until proven eloquent, tongue-tied up in litigation, as memories of the plantation keep interrupting my conversation, still suffering the backlash from when we first got our backslash. See, first they stole our drums, then forced us to hold our tongues, afraid of the insurrection in our inflection, calling our speech revolting, so as to keep us from revolting. Oh, wow, did I just lose that? Ooh, I think oh man, it's been a long time since I've done this. I just dropped the bomb.
But you know what? You didn't, because you dropped it on a jewel. You said, what was that last line? To keep us from revolting.
Yeah, so they called our speech revolting so as to keep us from revolting. And, oh, yeah. And before you can dismiss this poem as the rantings of an insecure ego, bear in mind that I've seen old notices for runaway slaves that read, "Caution, speaks relatively good English for a Negro." So now my own people seek to make my life miserable just because I often use words that contain more than one syllable. And no, I'm not an Oreo suffering from some sort of identity crisis. And when I talk, you'll never hear me try to pronounce every single word like this. I know that the rules regarding grammar and syntax are slightly more relaxed when we kick it, and just because they call our English broke don't mean we got to fix it. But as soon as white folks started telling me that I speak well, I had to start living my life on the DL, because black folk tend to view proper English as an alternative lifestyle. Had me thinking that enunciation was an abomination in the eyes of God. Forgive me, Father, for I have conjugated. And as much as I hated to break the news to my people, chose to out myself rather than doubt myself. Came out of the closet and told the whole damn world, yeah, I'm bi. Dialectal, meaning that I speak fluent jive and job interview. So not only do I converse, but I conversate too. As familiar with the words on the SAT as I am with the lyrics of Jay-Z. So please don't get it twisted. I was royalty way before the King's English ever existed. Don't down me, crown me.
Yo, I love it, man. I love it, man. I hope everyone caught that, man. There was so many jewels. You had me so many different places, you know. As soon as I found out I had to speak, well, I had to start living on the DL. Yo, I really like it, man. You know, especially as a poet.
Yes,
because,
sir.
You know, language is so we navigate through society based on our language.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I met a guy once. I got a good friend named Russell Douglas, and he literally talked his way into an engineering job at Yale.
Whoa.
Yeah. Russell will say, I can talk my way into any job in any interview at any given time. But he did that, and he retired as an engineer from Yale.
Get out of here.
Yeah, yeah, he actually retired and worked a full career in a job he talked himself into. And
Wow.
but it's attributed to the power of the language. But then you raise the whole conundrum of the judgment of our ebonics and
Mhm.
everything like that. Would you care to elaborate just a little bit more?
Yeah, so I'll just give you a little background about the poem itself. What happened was when I was in school, I got bullied a lot for supposedly talking white and acting white, as if speaking intelligently was inherently a white thing, and I didn't understand it then. But as I got older, I started to understand how um, blackness has taken on this connotation of we're anti-intellectual, where we don't like to read, we anything academic is seen as soft or weak, or or not authentically black per se. And then I look at history and I'm like, but wait a minute. We have, George Washington Carver. We have, W.E.B. Du Bois. We have Octavia Butler. We have James Baldwin. We have, I mean, some of the most intelligent people to ever walk the face of this earth. You know what I'm saying? People that invented things like the traffic lights, like Garrett Morgan, or Charles Drew, who invented the blood bank. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things that we're responsible for in this world, so many things that we've created, so many great inventions, science, math, astronomy, you name it. You know what I mean? So how can being intelligent be white if so many of us have excelled in the academy? It doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? And so that poem was really a byproduct of being very frustrated with a younger generation that still, continues to say these kinds of things, that still continues to bully other black kids because, because they choose to get to be into the books rather than, just sports, or or just rap, or whatever the case may be. We're more than that. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole point of the poem. And also, too, for white folk who would demean us because of our ebonics, but yet turn right around and use the same slang to sound cool. You know what I'm saying? Like it, you know what I'm saying? Like, literally, using it for their own convenience and then dropping it, you know what I'm saying, when they get around their white counterparts. So it's so a lot of this is talking about what happens on both sides, not just from what my people do, but from what white people do. And that's what the and plus, too, the history behind it, because that whole slavery part that I mentioned is real. Like, you literally, like, when we came here to America, like, they took our language because that was how we communicated. And because of that, they wanted to take the drums, because the drums were how we communicated. They wanted to change our tongue. So we spoke in pidgin dialects. We spoke in pidgin Portuguese, or pidgin Spanish, or pidgin French, or whatever the case may be, whoever our enslavers were, right? And what happened was, they knew that with that ability to communicate, we could organize. Once we organized, we could mobilize, because we outnumbered them. You know what I'm saying? We actually outnumbered them on the plantation. So they were afraid that we would mobilize ourselves and start these insurrections. That's why I said insurrection and our inflection. That's what it is. You know what I'm saying? So they were afraid that we would start these rebellions and that we would end up overthrowing them. So as long as they controlled our tongues, you know what I'm saying? That was how they kept us in check. You understand what I'm saying? That's why when you look at people, you look at some of the greatest men in history. You know what I'm saying? Whether they were evil or whether they were good or whatever the case may be, the one thing they all have in common, whether you're talking about Winston Churchill or Adolf Hitler or Malcolm X or MLK, the one thing that they all had in common was that they were all brilliant orators, all of them. You know what I'm saying? And because of that, they were dangerous. Okay? They were dangerous because when you can speak to the masses, you know what I'm saying? And you can organize them, you can mobilize them. That's why they had to kill MLK. That's why they had to kill Malcolm X. They had to do it. Let me just give you a brief thing about how powerful that really is. Adolf Hitler, right, said that the Aryan race was like 6 feet tall, blonde-haired, and blue-eyed. Adolf Hitler was not 6 feet tall, blonde-haired, and blue-eyed. You know what I'm saying? Like he literally got an entire nation to go to war for the idea of creating this master race, and he looked nothing like the master race.
Blonde hair, he had a black half eyebrow mustache. Like, right. Yo, hey, but very good point, and I'm glad you said it like that. The other thing that you got me thinking about is the fact that we actually think in our language. Mm-hmm. Our thoughts are kind of dictated by the words that we know. So naturally, you know what I mean? And I think that's pretty deep too. So it's really interesting that you kicked that poem, man.
Yeah, and I mean, and the thing about it is that there was a company that used to advertise on TV a long time ago. I think the name of the company was like TDK or something like that, and they had a slogan, and the slogan was, "We don't make a lot of the products you buy. We make a lot of the products you buy cooler." That's what we do with language. You understand what I'm saying? Like we invent so much stuff. Like when you think about, how we speak in Ebonics, right? And you think about how cool that is. Like when we watch old black exploitation movies, or we listen to hip hop, or we're just on the street just kicking it with our people. Like when you think about the ability that we have to speak in this language to each other, so that we always understand, like we can even communicate through a head nod. It's that deep. You know what I'm saying? But then to have the ability to go into these other circles and speak their language too, and code switch like that at the drop of a dime. You know what I'm saying? That's something that they're not ready for.
It's masterful.
It is. And that's the reason why, if you remember when Obama was in office, right? What was the one thing they always said about Barack Obama? He's so eloquent. He's so eloquent. Like they didn't expect a gentleman who was the president of the Harvard Law Review to be eloquent. Really? I'm just saying.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Totally good point, man. Totally good points, man. I really love it, man. And I think we can't focus enough on the power of our words, and what we do with them.
Yes, sir.
And I noticed you had some personal lines in it.
Yeah.
Well, after you told me the story just now, right. I put it in context. And I heard you in part of the poem. You said, "I'm not an Oreo trying to, I see where you're going with it, given the context.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I relate to that because I'm half black and half white.
Okay.
So I've went through a whole identity thing. You said struggling to find an identity, and I
Yep.
get what you were saying, because you were saying you're not. You are who you are. You are a black man, that this and that. And just because I talk like this, don't
Mm-hmm.
judge me, don't categorize me.
Yes, sir.
Find out.
Yes, sir.
And so I got that, and I wouldn't have picked up on that if I didn't remember it when you were giving the story.
Mm-hmm.
And you just touched on so many levels for me, man. You had me really thinking about, like I was kicked out of 7 different high schools in 3 states.
What?
Yeah, yeah, and, yeah, yeah. And I remember some of the struggles I was going in. And the thing is, I was real smart. I was like brilliant. When later on in life, when I went to college, I maintained like a 4.0 for the first year and a half, 2 years.
That's what's up.
And so it's just, we got to stay on our words, be mindful. And I just wanted to touch on my personal thing, how you really
Yes,
hit me
sir.
with that.
Yes, sir.
Ty Allen sent a shout out too.
Ah.
I'm sure you can imagine what he's saying.
That's my brother right there. I've known Ty. I've known Ty for about a little over. It's been over 20 years. And he was one of those cats that that I honestly grew up in poetry with, you know what I mean, like learning the craft, learning how to be better on stage, and how to project and all that other good stuff. Like he was a master of that, and still is. And now he's added the singing element to what he does. And and he makes some brilliant art. Shout out to Ty, aka graphics.
Yeah, graphics.
And you know what I'm saying? That's my boy. He's
he said you go back to 1997.
Yeah, he's he's somebody that I look up to, not just because he's so much significantly taller than I am, but but somebody that's been doing it for a really long time, and he's been doing it at a high level for a very long time. And you got to respect people that really are embedded in the history of this. Like if you go into the annals of New York City, and you talk about the Brooklyn Moon, and you talk about the New Eurekan Poets Cafe, New Eurekan Poets Cafe, which is my home, you can't help but talk about guys like Ty Allen and Sharif Simmons and Mums, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Mums the Schemer, JaSun and Soul, and the Vibe Chameleons, of course, Takala and all of them. Like that, man, when I tell you that back in the day it used to be so lit in New York City, it used to be so dope to go to the New Eurekan on a Saturday night and see the Vibe Chameleons put on a show. If you've never ever had the opportunity to do that, Wood Harris, right? You know Wood Harris, the actor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, he used to be spitting on stage with them too. You know what I'm saying?
Like, style from The Wire.
Yeah. And so seeing the creativity that they use, they used to put on these shows that were themed. Like it was always like some kind of a theme. And the one that stood out to me was they did a show about what you would say to God when you got to heaven, right?
Come on.
And like each one of them had like their own like viewpoint of what they would say to God when they got to heaven. And it was one of the dopest things I had ever seen. And what that did for me as a young poet, I think I was maybe 19 or 20 at the time. What that did for me was it really put in perspective just what you could do with language, how infinite the possibilities are, and how to to really welcome boundless creativity. Like they're heroes to me as far as I'm concerned. They're definitely heroes. Shout out to Shaki too. Shout out to and shout out to Beans and Anti-Pop Consortium as well. Those are my peoples too. All my Westchester County peoples, they came from Yonkers and they killed it. So shout out to Beans and Anti-Pop. Being a kid from Westchester County, like that was everything for me. You know what I'm saying? Shout out Shaki and man, all the cats that did it from Westchester, man. I if there wasn't a them, there wouldn't be a me. I know that for sure.
Word. And since we're on the shout out wave, I want to shout out my boy Ernest Baker. I didn't forget about you because he's texting on the chat too.
All right.
Showing the love. We're gonna get him on the show. But like you said, you spoke of that vibe, man. Mm-hmm. And that vibe was so important, man, to like everything we did. So a big part of the vibe that kind of got me into it was a brother by the name of Breon Bain.
Okay, so I can tell you about Breon. He was actually one of my teammates on the New York Poetry Cafe Slam team back in, I think that was 2000. Yeah, that was back in 2004, 2000, something like that. But he was one of my teammates, along with Tahut 9, Dr. Helena D. Lewis. Shout out to HDL. Breon came with a style that I hadn't heard before. Like his style is so dope because everything he does, like the Mephistopheles poem, one of the most brilliant poems I've ever heard. And and the way that there's a jazziness to what he does, but at the same time he's got that hip hop sensibility to him. But then you can tell that this is a cat that went to Harvard University. Like he has all these different flavors going on at the same time, and I think it's just so dope that I got a chance to like sit with him for like an entire summer and just vibe with him, man. Like, him and Tamer Bryant, Dr. Tamer Bryant, I should say. Shout out to them. So I've been so blessed to meet so many incredible people on this journey, and be around so many creative minds, and just soaking it all in, man. It's been amazing.
Right. So us in New Haven, we actually got lucky.
Okay.
We had Breon Bain move here.
Whoa.
He moved here for 3 years. And at the same time, D Knowledge lived here for the same 3 years, right? Right. In the same building.
Oh, man.
And this was just after you guys won the slam.
Wow.
Yeah. So we kind of caught that. So, and then in the midst of that, you had myself, you had Bob, you had Qualo, you had Hashim Allah, you had, there was a whole bunch of us. And what you reminded me was of the vibe.
Yeah.
Because we go to like the poetry venue and then we go back to like D Knowledge's house and do like a writing session till 5 in the morning.
Yeah. And the thing about it is that I always say that that Connecticut doesn't get the love that it should get, because New York and New Jersey get so much love in the tri-state. But I gotta be honest with you, I have experienced such an amazing family type atmosphere in Connecticut, ever since I first started coming out there. And Qualo is a huge part of that. Conscious was a huge part of that. You know what I'm saying? My twin sis, who I love dearly, Tracy Caldwell, aka Mind Evolution. That's my ace right there. Love her to death. You know what I'm saying? Lynette Johnson, you know what I'm saying? Shauna Melton, Alicia Cobb, man, Ayaba,
Ayaba.
That whole, you know what I'm saying, that whole vibe, Bow, you know what I'm saying, Buddha Love Jones, those are my peoples. Like that's family to me, you know what I mean? And then RIP Annette Lewis, you know what I'm saying, and Goma, who is and will always be my mentor. That dude taught me more about poetry and more about the power and the purpose of words than anybody else ever has in this game. He was the one who first got me to go out to the Peabody and do the MLK slams out there. I haven't done it in a while, but I always look back on those slams fondly because it was hard fought and everything, and poets came out and they spit and they went hard and all of that. But at the end of it all, it was love. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was real love at the end, regardless of who won or who lost. You know what I'm saying? It was love. So, I definitely, and you got to understand that I'm been slamming for as long as I can remember. And I've witnessed it bring out the best in some people and witnessed it bring out the worst in others. And I can honestly say that, in the many years that I did that slam, I always saw the best in people, from beginning to the end. And, so I'm always appreciative of that. And I'm always appreciative of how much love and support CT has given me over the years, man. It's amazing. It really is.
Word. That was deeply felt, brother. Listen, we got about 20 something minutes left, but usually I like to try to get 2 more poems out of you. One maybe now, and then one.
I guess you believe that only mad black women keep diaries. Or maybe that it's easier to ghostwrite someone else's phantoms than it is for you to admit that you're haunted. Or maybe that it's easier for a black man to wear skirts than it is for him to constantly be accused of chasing after them. Or maybe there's no way for any of us to be both more of a man and less of a threat. I don't think I am lost enough to find you funny. I think that laughter's what tragedy sounds like on an off day. Dave Chappelle said he was funnier than a dress, and he still had to go all the way to Africa to see the difference between being laughed with and being laughed at. Tyler, I just want to hear stories about us. Stories about black boys who live their lives as question marks because they're too scared to be exclamation points. Black boys who talk to themselves because no one else will listen. The same ones who cry in the dark because they know their emotions will be made light of. Black boys who proclaim themselves ready to die because they are unprepared to love. The same ones who pick a casket before they pick a college. Tyler, weren't you a black boy once? Do you ever think about the colored boys who've committed suicide when being themselves wasn't enough? I just want the truth. Save the happy endings for seedy massage parlors. I prefer this flesh and bone unedited because there has already been too much of us left on cutting room floors, and I refuse to spend another moment censoring my spine. In the end, you are no different from us, offspring of invisible men who spend sleepless nights worrying about the way the rest of the world sees us, seduced by the fact that secrets are often easier to keep than promises, telling black women to remain patient while waiting to exhale because our breath is the only thing some of us have ever felt comfortable holding. I just want to hear stories about us, finally feeling comfortable in our own skin, about the way we find home in our scars, about the way we're judged by how much pain we can take as opposed to how much love we can give, about the way hearts are more easily broken than cycles, about the way death often claims us before our fathers do, about the brothers who hang on corners, and about the ones who eventually turn them. I just want to hear stories about good black men. And when I say good, I mean decent. When I say decent, I mean flawed. When I say flawed, I mean human. When I say human, I mean he who is capable of making excuses, mistakes, love, babies, sacrifices, and a commitment. I mean a saint with a past and a sinner with a future. I mean a man who longs to find a woman with a pair of arms, so unwilling to let him go that they eventually set him free. It isn't that we are unable to love Tyler, just terrified that love may be unable to love us back. What's up? My name is JaMAAL St. John. You can find me online at www.JaMaalStJohn.com. That's JAMAALSTJOHN.com.
Well, okay.
Wow. That was really dope.
Oh, shout out to my brother, Advocate of Words. He excuse me, he directed, edited, produced that whole video. I had a load of fun in New York City, going to these different locales. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think we were uptown. I think we were in Harlem, and and we did all those different areas and everything. And I just had a blast doing it. And I hope to work with him again someday. But that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that.
Wow. And it was well said too. I almost wanted to hit rewind and watch it again.
That's what's up.
And I really appreciate the whole ending, last, however many minute or so of that poem, when you went into the whole mantra about, I want to hear more poems about black men who, what really stuck out for me was black men who, how'd you put it? Instead of how much pain they can endure, how much love they can give.
I think that's always been the problem, and specifically that's usually my problem, not just with Tyler Perry's movies, but with with Hollywood in general, is that we don't have any balance. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind seeing movies about slavery and things like that, because that's historical, that happened. But at the same time, I want to see other representations of us. I want to see us as doctors and lawyers and and professionals and blue collar people and decent hardworking people. I want normal people, what I'm saying, superheroes, whatever the case may be. That's why Black Panther was such a huge deal, is because we finally got to see ourselves on screen as heroes, as as powerful, as intelligent, as as loving. You know what I mean? We finally got to see that. And that was a huge deal, you know what I mean? And because that helped balance out the narrative. Like, this whole narrative of the fact that we're just drug addicts, or we're just, thugs, and we're just, whores and whatnot, like that, all that stuff is bogus. You know what I'm saying? To show only one side of us, because, human beings are multifaceted. Human beings are not monolithic. Black folk are no different. You know what I mean? So, what I'm saying? So, it's okay if you don't want to be the next LeBron James. It's okay if you want to be the next Charles Drew. It's okay if you want to be the next Octavia Butler. It's okay if you don't want to be a football player or a basketball player or a baseball player, because we're not just athletes. You know what I'm saying? We're scientists, we're lawyers, we're doctors, we're architects. We're all over the place. We do everything. You know what I'm saying? And to limit the range of what it is we're capable of doing or what it is we're capable of being. That is one of the things that has always held us back and always kept us in check, because, you know what I'm saying, once they get you to believe that this is all you can ever be, it's like telling somebody that grew up in the projects that the whole world is only as big as their block. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So like if you tell somebody, you know, you say to somebody, hey, you know what? It's okay to get a passport, you know what I'm saying? And if you can't get a passport, get a book.
Wow.
Get a book. Read
Wow.
up. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. You know what I mean? It doesn't make you any less black because you want more out of life than what they tell you can get. You know what I'm saying? There's no shame in that. You know what I'm saying? But when they tell you that this is all you can ever be, if you try to step out of that box, you know what I'm saying, immediately you got people trying to shame you because you want to do and be more than what they told you could. And that's wrong.
Right.
That's wrong. So
that's
change
right.
the narrative.
That's right. I love you for that, brother, because, you know, I actually was one of those brothers you couldn't peel me from in front of the 24 store. You know?
Okay.
I mean, you couldn't peel me, and the only place I went other than that was jail.
Oh, that's what's up.
You know? And then I'd be right back.
I'm glad you made that change, brother.
So thank you. But
yes, sir.
At the same time, do you know how big that statement you just said was about get a passport?
Yeah.
You know, get you know, if you can't get a passport, get a
book. Go to the library. Like, do you ever notice how all of a sudden, you know, all across our you know, where we live, all of a sudden libraries are starting to close? You ever notice that? And it's I mean, there's a reason for this. Like, this is not a secret. You know what I'm saying? You know, they start closing libraries, and all of a sudden your access to information dwindles, because not everybody has access to a personal computer. They know that. Not everybody has access to the internet. Not everybody has access to all these expensive gadgets and whatnot.
I don't mean to cut you off, but that's one of the problems about the coronavirus vaccine right now. You're hearing these people, especially a lot of them in New York City, saying, listen, I don't have a computer. I'm not savvy. I don't know where to go to even get it. How do we reach those people in a pandemic or a crisis or uplift them? I just had to chime in with that. I'm sorry, but go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely on point. And that's the thing. I mean, people, you know, and here's the thing too. You know, if you just look at what our history has been, I mean, they literally would, you know, when we were on the plantation, they would literally chop our thumbs off for trying to read books. Do you understand? Like, just to put that in perspective, how powerful knowledge really is. You know what I'm saying? And so there's this old messed up saying that if you want to hide anything from a black person, put it in a book. You know what I'm saying? And it's one of the most messed up statements I've ever heard. But the problem in trying to debunk that is so many of us are anti-book. So many of us are like, I ain't reading. You know what I'm saying? That's for white folk. I ain't reading. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. And that's why I say it's up to creative minds like the ones we have in this poetry thing to change that narrative, to make people listen. Because the thing about spoken word is that, you know, we have the ability to entertain people, but we also have the ability to educate people while we're entertaining. And a lot of times, you know, you'll sit in a high school auditorium or on a college campus, and you'll say something, and it's like, really though? Like you have, like, the kids will go crazy because to them it sounds like hip hop. It sounds like, you know, like what they're familiar with, but you just dropped a jewel and they're like, yo, I wasn't even thinking about it like that, but you got a point. You know what I'm saying? And it changes their perspective on things. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. My job is not to change people's minds per se. My job is to make you see that there's another way of looking at things. And if you vibe with that, cool. If you don't, that's fine. But at least you know that there is another way of looking at things, and you don't have to sit there and just have tunnel vision and look at it just one way.
I love it. I love it. And you see how dope it is that we went right back to where we started from
Yep.
with your first poem, and how powerful that first poem is, man. And I'm just sitting here like, yo, teach them, Jay, teach them, because like we need this, man. And that's why I shared my personal story,
Yes, sir.
because listen, man, we need this. We need this paradigm shift, as Ngoma says. We need this change
Yes,
of
sir.
perspective, man. We need upliftment, man, and I'm finding that we're only going to get it from us.
Pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, if you know, nobody's gonna do it for us. You know what I'm saying? Like this is something that I've always been very passionate about. Something that you know, that drives me is making sure that we have other ways of looking at things. And you know, some people will agree, some people won't, and that's fine. But at least you are making an attempt to put some balance, some semblance of balance into the world. You know what I mean? In terms of, you know, not just settling for that limited range of what they give us. You know what I'm saying? We can be so much more than what it is we see. You know what I mean? And we have a whole history, a whole ancestry behind us that tells us so if we listen. For
So,
real.
is that one of your intentions when you write?
Yeah. When I sit down to write, a lot of it is for the sake of wanting to give some kind of an alternative view, or some kind of a message that tells people that, you know, it's okay to feel passionate about something other than, you know, what you are told you should be passionate about. Like I could be passionate about sports. I'm as big as a sports fanatic as there is, but that's not all there is to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like I'm passionate about books. I'm passionate about poetry. I'm passionate about, you know, like I remember when I first started doing poetry back in the 90s, before Love Jones came out and it became cool to do it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people looked at me like I was crazy. What do you mean you do poetry? What are you talking about? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like Shakespeare? Like what do you do? Shakespeare in the park? You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I had no idea you was Othello. Nah, no, not like that. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? So, you know, so it's okay to be artistic. It's okay to be a sculptor or a painter or a graphic designer or whatever, you know, whatever you want to do. You know what I'm saying? Creativity is a beautiful thing. And the other thing that I would say about this whole thing is that, you know, it's an amazing thing to experience divinity in mortal form. You know what I'm saying? Like literally take a piece of paper, put it down, it's blank. Then all of a sudden words start coming from you and you don't even know where these words are coming from. I know for me, I hear voices. You know what I'm saying? I hear voices that get like I hear the lines coming through, and it's like I'm a vessel. You know what I'm saying? I'm a conduit. I'm a vessel. And from a blank piece of paper to all of a sudden there's a poem there that wasn't there an hour or two ago. There's something that I can't explain. I can only experience. You know what I'm saying? And that's a very magical thing. That's a very divine thing. You know what I mean? So it puts you closer to your creator because you yourself are being creative. You know what I'm saying? It's a very very special thing. And I, like I said, I don't take it for granted. And I tell people all the time that it's very easy to be humble about all of this. Because the way that I look at this, and I've always looked at it is that, you know, it's not my job to take credit for any of this, but it is my job to take responsibility for it. And so everything I say, you know what I'm saying, I got to take responsibility for that. And so it makes you a more humble writer, and it also makes you a more conscientious writer as well. And that's really important to me. You know what I'm saying? Especially as it relates to, my given audience, or people that are interested in becoming part of my audience. It's very, very important that I give them, something that they can go back home with. You know what I mean? I had a creative writing teacher that used to say, you can't be all flash and no flesh. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I mean? And so you gotta, you can be stylistic, you can use all the clever, fancy, poetic devices, and and all the crazy language and everything like that. But at the end of the day, if you didn't really say anything, then what have you really done?
Well, bro, I feel like you gave us some flash, and feel you gave us a whole lot of flesh. I feel like you gave us a whole lot of flesh in this, man. You had me on the edge of my seat, man. I wanted to chime in so much because you were giving it up so hard and touching on things that I'm really passionate about. And
yes,
you
sir.
talked about passions,
yes,
as
sir.
a matter of fact, and let it into your writing. And it was funny because at the time I wanted to say, well, how does your passion affect your writing? And you went, and so I just started holding my mouth. I was like, okay, JaSun, just be quiet and let him teach.
I read the title of the show. I'm literate, bro.
Alhamdulillah. Yo, big ups. If we could be so blessed, man, to have you take us out with a poem, man, and then just maybe drop your contact info for those that want to follow you, man. I really appreciate you, bro.
Yes, sir. Okay. So we'll end it like this. This poem is dedicated to anyone who has an issue with what they call illegal immigration. All right. Yeah, Trump supporters everywhere are not going to like this, but whatever. He's out of office anyway. It's all good. So here it is. This poem is called Borderline Crazy. Sir Isaac Newton once remarked that the problem with man is that he spends far too much time building walls and not nearly enough time building bridges. Nowhere do his words ring truer than here. Here, where they will call you illegals, tell you that you are trespassing on land that their forefathers stole fair and square, tell you that your love of America constitutes a crime of passion, tell you that aliens don't deserve inalienable rights, tell you that sometimes they get mad at the desert for not killing you when it had the chance, tell you that sometimes they can't sleep at night, knowing that there are more Garcias than Jacksons, more Rodriguez's than Wilsons, knowing that salsa is more popular than ketchup, and that soon they will have to keep up with the Sanchez's instead of the Joneses. You will become a casualty of the war on terror because Al-Qaeda has replaced because the bodega has replaced Al-Qaeda as the biggest threat to our national security. They will tell you that freedom only speaks English, tell you to get the fuck off welfare, casually leaving out the fact that you don't qualify for it to begin with. You They will call you spineless, despite the fact that you are this country's backbone. They will rebuke you, then they will recruit you because they are tired of you stealing all the good jobs like nursemaid, dishwasher, nanny, gardener, and scapegoat. Bienvenidos a los Estados Unidos, mi amigos. La tierra de la leche y miel, la tierra de oportunidad. I know by now you must be wondering why America has never been sued for false advertising. Tell them that you'd rather be green lighted than green carded. Tell them that you didn't cross the border crossed you. Tell them that this was the home of the Braves before it was ever the home of the brave. Then ask them what their lives would have been like had the Indians practiced a tougher immigration policy. Tell Republicans to stop building fences and tell Democrats to stop straddling them. Tell them that you pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the repugnance for which it stands, one nation, underachieving, inhospitable, with bigotry and injustice for all who fit ever so neatly into the category of other, rounded up and rounded down to the lowest human denominator by those who have mastered the art of how to become filthy rich without ever getting their hands dirty. Tell them that, oh man, oh man, I dropped that poem? Oh my God. Wow. Oof. Tell them that the seed of hope has been planted in you. Tell them that you are pregnant with the idea of a better life and that America must submit to a DNA test as soon as it gets back from fathering democracies elsewhere.
I pledge grievance to
Yes,
the flag. That's right. Brilliant. Man, I thank you, man. It's truly been a pleasure. I've actually feel like I've gotten to know you just a little bit better. And
yes, sir.
I hope the audience has gotten that too. You know, this man just gave us flash and flesh. You know, and I see I'm holding on to that one, right?
I got you.
Yeah, and we just want to thank you, man. You are now officially, you were already actually Poems and Passing Family, so that, you know, it's not because you came on the show. That's
yes,
not
sir.
true. You've been family. So if you could just you know, give me the information, any last words you want to give them, man, and we're gonna take it out of here.
You can follow me on Facebook. You know, my name is Jamal. That's JAMAAL. St. John. You can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter at Mally Says. That's MAALYSAYS. You can follow me on IG at Boondock Saint 0920. You know, and what I would say before getting out of here is that I'm blessed to have been able to do this as long as I have. And I'm looking forward to what I'll be creating next. I do want to say that I do plan on doing some new poetry on Facebook Live, doing a solo show on Facebook Live, probably in April. I got to get the date straight, but I'm working on some new stuff, and I can't wait to share it with everybody. So I definitely want you to tune in for that. And you know, and like I said, man, just understand that there's more to you than you think, and that people try to make you think. So what I would say is, man, you know, to the creators out there, keep creating, keep pushing the envelope, keep changing the narrative, keep doing what you do, because if you haven't noticed, it's been, you know, creative types. It's been the artists that have been carrying us through this pandemic. You know, it's been poets doing online poetry shows. It's been we've been talking a lot about verses, the verses that have gone on with the various artists. You know what I'm saying? The Jill Scott versus Erykah Badu versus the Bounty Killer versus Beanie Man versus whatever the case may be. These things, the music, the poetry, the art has given us life during a time of great death and mourning in our country. So I really want to thank the artists. I want to thank them for continuing to inspire me, and I just hope that I can provide half the inspiration that they've given me. So I just want to say thank you to JaSun, thank you to D Moss, my peoples. I love y'all. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored and privileged to be here, and I can't wait to do this again. Just sending y'all love, man, and just y'all stay safe in the midst of all this corona madness, man, for real.
Peace and blessings, bro. Peace and blessings, man.
Yes, sir. Right back at you, my brother.
Yes, man. And with that, we'd like to say peace. Join us next week, and we're going to keep it moving, man. Thank you. Peace. Poems and passions. We out.
This poem is called For All Michaels Who Happen to Be Brown. Black boy died. Black boy. Walk through life, head down, hands up. Your character was assassinated long before the first shot was fired. Your American life has always been more Russian roulette anyway. Your footsteps sounding off like the chamber spinning. I know you think you know what's going on here, but it would be wise of you to not assume anything except the